Another argument that still hangs around. I talked about this a little bit before, another dumb argument that I produced. This concerns Kyle being a local. So a lot of people are saying, well, he shouldn't have been in Kenosha because he's a stranger to that town, and Kyle is going around calling himself a local, and he's not even from Kenosha. Well, how close to reality is Kyle's claim?
With his powerful brainwaves cradled in the warmth of reasoning, it's time for Johnnie Walker Dread to straighten you out on a thing or two. Emanating all the way from exciting Las Vegas, Oklahoma, it's the Johnnie Walker Dread Show.
Okay, so let's take a look at the map here. And you can see, here's Kenosha, and here is Antioch, and Kyle lives in Antioch, and this is where the riot occurred. And you can also see that the driving distance is 21 miles, and it takes about half an hour. And of course, as the crow flies, it's probably looking about 15 miles. So Kyle lives fairly close to Kenosha. Also notice this whole argument about the state line. Oh, he drove across state line. Oh, it's amazing how the people who want open borders, who don't even want to believe that there should be a border between Mexico and the United States, all of a sudden become big on states' borders. All right. Now, take a look. Right here is the Illinois-Wisconsin border. It's about 2 miles from Antioch. If you get into your car and you drive north a couple miles, you're into Illinois. And so you travel back and forth between Illinois and Wisconsin all the time. And nothing magical happens when you pass over from one state to the other. In fact, you may not even know that you're going from one state to the other unless maybe the roads change because of the different funding. The question now becomes, well, can Kyle claim Kenosha as his hometown, or can he claim himself as a local? Well, Robert Barnes, who is a famous civil rights lawyer, weighed in on this on Viva Fry's really excellent YouTube channel. And let's go ahead and listen to him.
No, so he lives in Illinois, and for people to know, by the way, there was this impression that this was some far-off Illinois place that he must have been connected to some secret militia to travel there. I know that part of Wisconsin well. Like I said, I practiced in Wisconsin for many years. The Kenosha sits between Milwaukee and Chicago. It's an old industrial city, very blue-collar city, a little bit down on its luck economically the last 20 years. The kind of place where key swing voters gave Trump the election in 2016. But there's a lot of people who work on that part of the Illinois border whose cultural, they go back and forth. So I grew up in Chattanooga, Tennessee. We are right on the border of Georgia, partially on the border of Alabama. And it was really all part of the same community for many people there. The same is true in that part of Illinois. So that part of northwestern Illinois, a lot of people go up and back and forth to Wisconsin, and they're really part of an overlapping community. So like people are saying, oh, he wasn't defending his community. No, that's incorrect. He was defending his community. That is an overlap with his community. So it was his community. The fact that his community happened to be across a single state line didn't change the fact that they're all part of the same community. This is like people live in the Jersey suburbs, but really are part of the Philadelphia community, and things like that. So it's the same sort of dynamic. Kansas City, for example, St. Louis. I mean, you have cities that have a community. Little Rock, Arkansas. You have West Little Rock. You have places that have not Little Rock. I'm sorry, Memphis. West Memphis is in Arkansas, but Memphis itself is in Tennessee. So you have communities that are overlap culturally, and that I know that part of the country very well. That he was part of his community. Kenosha is part of his community. Just because it happens not to be the state he lives in doesn't change the fact that for cultural, social, economic purposes, he's part of that. They're all part of that same community, loosely speaking. And it appears he was working up there as a lifeguard and whatnot. So which would not be a surprise at all. That's kind of the norm. A lot of the kids go up to Kenosha. Kenosha, I think, is actually one of the bigger metropolitan areas for someone who lived where he lived within closer proximity than Chicago or things like that.
A few things here. One, as he strongly stated, he knows the area very well. People from Antioch consider themselves a part of the Kenosha community. And so it is not absurd for Kyle to think that he is a local. And also, there's a lot of going back and forth between Kenosha and Antioch. Kyle travels back and forth between there all the time. He works in Kenosha. So there's a little bit more information come out that kind of surprised me a little bit. We're going to go ahead and watch that. This is an interview of Wendy Rittenhouse and Kyle's lawyer, attorney John Pierce.
And what happened is, as Wendy indicated, he had worked the previous day in and near Kenosha in Wisconsin. That's where he works. His father lives there, so he worked on the 24th in Kenosha, adjacent to Kenosha, and he slept at a friend's house that night. There have been riots for 2 days. They woke up in the morning and they're watching their community that they love burn down. They didn't march down there with AR-15s to start shooting people. What they decided was nobody was doing anything for the community. The mayor had failed, the governor had failed, and the city was being destroyed. They saw schools being defaced. They saw houses with children in them and disabled people on the top floors having to spray paint, please don't burn down our house or we're not burned alive. And so, they didn't do anything extreme. What they decided was, hey, let's do something. And so that morning, Kyle and Dominic and Mackenzie decided, let's go clean graffiti. So they went to...
Mackenzie, by the way, that is Kyle's sister. I think she's a younger sister. So a couple things. First of all, Kyle's father lives in Kenosha. His best friend lives in Kenosha. And as he stated, he also has a job in Kenosha. He went there the night before because I think it was Dominic Black who said that there was some spray paint graffiti on the local high school, and he asked Kyle if he could go with him to go and clean the graffiti off. I'm not sure what happened with Mackenzie. She must have rode back with her mom because their mom dropped them both off the night before. So there's a few things that come out of this. Number one, Kyle had very much an emotional reason to take part in what he was doing. They were tearing apart the town of Kenosha. He very much considers himself a Kenosha local. That's his town as far as he's concerned. And as Robert Barnes mentions, that's perfectly normal for people in Antioch to think that way. Kyle had a connection with Kenosha also because his father lived in Kenosha, and he also worked there. So the whole idea somehow that Kyle should have had no emotional attachment to the town of Kenosha is ridiculous. Like my video, subscribe to my channel. I've got more.